Hello everyone. In this lecture we will be discussing about the differences between C++ and C programming languages. Both are very prominent and popular programming languages and among the top 5 languages. And since we know that C++ is a successor of C language, so it do resembles many features. It has almost similar syntax. It has the code structure compilation process which resembles. So in this particular video we shall be discussing the key differences between the C++ language and the C programming language. So beginning with, we start with the first difference, that is a programming paradigm. Now on this basis, we can differentiate between the two, that as C follows procedural programming paradigm. This feature helps everything according to this feature we make everything is broken down into functions to get the work done. So the main focus is on creating functions, whereas C++ follows both procedural but it is primarily object oriented approach, and therefore everything is written in terms of objects and classes, and this is why it follows a object oriented approach. And we can also make another difference that object oriented concepts are followed in C++, but these are not supported in C because it does not follow object oriented approach. Next, the programs. When you write your program, type your program in any IDE, then when you save it, you have .c extension in case of C program, and in case of C++ source file, that particular program is having a .c++ extension. Next is the programming approach. As C++ focuses on creating functions, so it is a function oriented approach, and hence it follows a top-down approach of programming where focus is on steps rather than data. So whereas in C++ we have object oriented approach, everything is expressed in terms of object, and therefore it follows a bottom-up approach. And in this, first we design the lower level modules and then we integrate as we move next level up, and thus it focuses more on data rather than procedure. So this is a key fundamental feature. And next we can distinguish between these two on the basis of the number of keywords supported. Now C contains almost 32 keywords, and with modern C++ and many more keywords are added in it, and almost more than 50 keywords are supported in C++. Now from this viewpoint of security, now in C, global data is used and can be accessed by any function in the program because we are mainly focused on function, and thus it makes the whole data insecure because the stress is on function, not on data. So by making global data accessible to all the functions in a program, it makes it insecure. Whereas C++ is object oriented, there are private access specifiers and other many features which make it to the security feature, and relatively we can say that it is better providing better security features in comparison to C. But due to use of friend functions, global variables are also being allowed, use of pointers, it too suffers from the security issues. Next, we can compare on the basis of data type. Now in C, now as you remember, if you have to create a character array, it is treated as a string. Now a string is an array of characters which is terminated by a null character. But in case of C++, where string is a library and it can be treated or acting as a data type. So we can use string to create a variable of type string, and thus we can again use for creating or manipulating strings and all that. So in this, a new type known as string, like this string, you can write string and s followed by semicolon. So this is a string that is available to us in C++. Now bool data type is also available in C++, but it is not there in C. Then C++ supports the concept of class user defined data type. No doubt we have structure, union and annum, which are both supported in C and C++, but class user defined data type is supported just in C++. Then C++ helps us to declare reference variable, which is an alternate name for the existing variable, by adding an ampersand sign. Now this feature is not supported in case of C. In regard to operators, we can say on the basis of operators we can distinguish that relational operators return 1 or 0 in case of C. No doubt they represent true and false, but they are returning values 1 and 0. Whereas in C++, relational operator return a boolean value true and false. They actually return a value true and false. Now in C++, there are many new additional operators. Scope resolution operator is there, new operator is there, delete operator is there, throw operator is there. These operators are not existing in C. Now, in terms of variables and literals, we can say that again we have differences. Until C99, this is one of the versions of C which was available to us. Now, all variables need to be declared at the beginning. As you remember, we used to declare variables in C at the starting after main. We all the variables, whether they are being used in loops, in for loop, any integer variable as acting as an index I. If you remember, we had to declare at the beginning, but in C++11 and later, it is allowed to declare variables when needed. So in for loop, you can write int I is equal to 0. So this is really helpful because when you need a variable, you can declare it, and it helps to not consider there may be large code which will be having separate declarations, and it will make all the things very difficult to remember, read, and all that problems can be there. Now, C allows multiple definitions of a single global variable in a single program. As you can see now, int a and int a is equal to 8. Now these are okay in C. That is, if you write, you can see the code I have shown here that int a and int a, these are two global variables, and these global variables, one is just declared and one is having a value. These are treated separately. But if you try to do the same in C++, it will generate an error because as only one definition can appear in a code. So this feature is one of the key distinguishing feature. Then again, if you write size of a, where a is a character, now if you determine the size of character in C, it turns out to be 4. It is of type int. So in C, character literal is treated as integer type, whereas in C++ it is treated as a char type. Therefore, it is equal to 1 in case of C++. Next, we come to the casting. No doubt there are implicit and explicit casting rules, as you remember. These are both available in C and C++, but new with C++11, new style cast have been introduced: static cast, dynamic cast, const cast, reinterpret cast. These are new style casting operators that have been introduced. Now, in concept of namespace, now in namespace, C does not provide the feature of namespace, whereas all standards libraries are treated as global. For example, like stdi and printf, scanf, all these are standard library names are treated as global. Whereas in C++, all names with standard libraries are within std namespace. So if you will be next doing some program, you will be using it very often in your code, like using namespace std in your code. Then memory allocation. Dynamic memory allocation is done using library functions malloc, calloc, realloc, and free in case of C. So you have to make use of these functions. These specifically functions are available. But if in regard to C++, you can see we are having two new operators, new and delete, that help to perform this task. So therefore, uh, no doubt both are having this functionality, but in the different way. So you can say in C++ it is used in with new and delete operators, and if you have been doing the same in C, you might have been using malloc and calloc and realloc and free functions. Next, function overloading and operator overloading. These concepts are only supported in C++ and they are not available in C. Then in regard to functions, we can say that C allows to assign default values to function parameter while prototyping the function, but it is not available in C. So if you can consider this statement that I am writing over here, void function int I, int j is equal to 10. This is a function declaration. It is allowed in C++, but it is not allowed in C because it allows to assign default value. You can see int j is equal to 10. This is a default value. We'll be discussing what what are default values, why we give it to trailing values, trailing declarations, like we can, if you have to give an default values, how to specify them. So in this case, j will be taking a default value of 10. So this is allowed in C++, not in C. Then we have friend functions concept, virtual function concept, and these are supported in C++, not in C. Next, we can differentiate in C++ function type with no prototype implies that parameters are unspecified. So when we call, so we can call this when it is unspecified. You can call it with one, two, or more arguments. But in case of C++, it is not allowed. So if you are simply writing int function with an empty bracket, you can call it by function in C but not in C++. Then in main, function can be called through other functions and itself. but it is not allowed. Main is the is the first function that is being called when the program execution start. So this is also a difference in context of main. That function can be called through other functions in C, but not in C++. Then again, the writing style of comments can be another point of differentiation between these two. In C, you write comments by enclosing all the comments within these two symbols delimiters, and similarly they are line oriented. In case of C++, they usually begin, no doubt we can use the C style comment in C++ also, but this is not possible in you cannot use C++ style in C. Okay. Now with coming with the header file, very important thing that you need to remember, and we'll be focusing on in the next few sections, that while C is writing programs in C, it is mandatory to specify header files with an extension .h. Like if you include stdio.h file in your C program, you have to write .h as an extension. But with C++, modern C++ IDs and all that, specifically visual IDs, online editors and all that, IDs don't prefer using .h extension. So in this you have to include #include iostream, not #include iostream.h while working with Visual Studio Code. Similarly, void pointer, this is an important concept. We can add it as a differentiator. Now C allows void pointer to be assigned to any pointer without need to explicit class. So you can consider this statement void star pointer. It is a pointer of void type. Now if you write the same in C, it is allowed int star I is equal, because it will be converted without need to explicit class, but C++ will throw an error over here. So in that case, if you write it like this, only then it will be allowed. Then in terms of const qualifier, we can say that in C++, const qualifier must be initialized, otherwise it will throw an error. So if you write this, it is allowed in C, but in C++ it is not allowed, and you will have to assign a value to this. So this is another difference you can ensure between these two languages. Next is call by reference. C, that is using reference variables, we can call a function can have a copy of that particular variables which are passed as parameters due to the call by reference feature, which is not available in C. Now in context of structures and unions, if you remember, in C you had to write this structure while declaring these variables, but in case of C++ there is no need of writing it. It can work without it over here. So in C++ one can create an instance variable of a structure variable, that structure, without requiring the keyword struct, but it is mandatory in C. Now in C, a structure member cannot be a function. So you cannot include functions to be the member of a structure. So its member can only be like data part, that is, we can say data. Now in C++, a structure can have function definitions in the data member. So this is allowed in C++. Then all structure members are public by default. These are some of the key differences between in context of structures and unions. So this finishes up